Too much coal for this hole. Oh, man.
I ain't never heard that before.
Reach it.
Nah, jump.
Watch out, watch out. Back on the side. Watch out, bud. Bad quad. Hey, you got all that on GoPro?
GoPro's still going. 30 minutes.
Go ahead.
Wow. That's how long it took. If we'd had that quad finder,
it
would have brought us right to it.
There you go. You
Might have to put this one to the test.
Shark goggles and mad people.
Because if that had come unplugged,
Done.
we would have found it, dude. How would we have found it? We had no idea.
It was just buried and just high enough that...
You'd never see it.
Hey guys, today we have a chance to take a look at the new VIFLY Beacon. So as you guys know, VIFLY's been in this, what do you want to call it, like advanced buzzer market for a while now, and they were one of the first, not the first, but they were one of the first to come to market with a really competitive buzzer that works without having a LiPo connection to the drone. So you know, before these types of buzzers, your drone had to have active power essentially because the buzzer was hooked up to the flight controller and could be enabled with a switch. Well, VIFLY, again, not the first to market, but came out with a buzzer that essentially was powered by an external LiPo and charged while it was plugged into a drone in order to overcome this, so that if you happen to have a battery ejection or something, you still had a chance to find your drone. Likewise, because it was a really small, lightweight, really low power solution, this thing can run for hours, putting out, you know, an audible beacon or an audible tone so that you can find your lost drone. Well, the beacon is an evolution of that, or probably not exactly an evolution so much as an alternative, because one of the shortcomings of the old VIFLY buzzers is that if you wanted to use them on like a DJI drone or a camera drone, something that had a case, you essentially had to void your warranty, I'm assuming, and open that up in order to solder this thing into it, if it was even possible with the power connections and everything there. Well, the VIFLY Beacon solves that. So let's go ahead and get this thing open and just take a look here. The beacon solves that by essentially running from a completely self-contained unit. So this does not require any soldering. It does not require being hooked up to the flight controller. As such, you give up a little bit of extra control, but you still get all the benefits, because again, you're typically only going to use this when the drone is lost, right? So real quick, let's go over the operation of this. Now, this is powered by a LiPo. It is charged, however, since it's not hooked up to the drone in any way, through the USB connection. So a standard 5-volt USB, either plugged into a computer or some sort of wall charger, is going to do the trick just fine. But you have to remember to charge it, because it is not going to charge itself. So in order to enable it, you're going to hold the button for between 2 and 5 seconds. So anywhere in that range will turn this thing on. And likewise, to power it off later, we'll do the same thing in order to power it down. So if I go ahead and hold that for between 2 and 5 seconds, the beacon then becomes enabled. And this is in like a standby mode. So if you can think about this, you've got this thing on your drone, you turn it on, and then you're going to go set your drone down, and you're going to prepare for takeoff. Okay? So this is just letting you know that it's active. You know, you get the really short audible tones. You get and they are low volume too, so they're not too offensive or anything. And then you're going to take off and you're going to fly. And this is part of the genius of this VIFLY Beacon. It has an accelerometer on board, and so any movement of any kind, this thing goes into just its standby mode, powers on, but it's not making any audible tones, so that during a regular flight, you know, you don't have anything funny, especially if it's a camera bird. You don't want that beeping in the background, especially if you're going to use any of the audio. Now, the cool part comes that if this thing senses any sort of sudden movement and then becomes still, it goes into a pre-alarm stage. So let's go ahead and do that. I'm actually going to just drop this on the floor because trying to drop this here on this mat wasn't working. So I've gone ahead and dropped it on the floor, which gave it a jar. And so now you can hear the pre-alarm stage. Every 3 to 6 seconds, it's going to go ahead and use a small audible chime or a low volume audible chime, just as an indicator that this thing is getting ready to go into full alarm mode. Now, when it goes into full alarm mode, the audible tones kick off every 6 to 12 seconds, and they become extremely loud. So you get 2 bursts of sound every 6 to 12 seconds. Okay? So you got its initial chime to let you know that it's in full alarm mode, and now it's going to continue to chime every 6 to 12 seconds so that you can find it. Now this has an additional pretty cool feature. I'm going to see if we can block the light to this and you can see. If it's dark, you also get a visual beacon. Because there are times where people have been out looking for these either in the dark or they've even been flying them in the dark. Now, I'll talk about that and expand that in a second. But as you're walking around, you can hear it, but boy, it's hard to see, right? Especially if this is a racing drone and the colors are all dark and there's nothing, you know, bright or fluorescent. Now, what you just heard there is the next stage of alarm. So the idea is you find your drone. And as you find it, you pick it up. And normally what you'll do at this point, try that again. Normally what you'll do at that point is you'll hold the power button to turn this off so that that doesn't happen. And what that is an anti-theft alarm. Because let's say that you are in a field full of people and you're not sure, you know, there's people helping you find this and somebody gets the bright idea that they're going to take off with it. To me, it doesn't sound very realistic, but I'm sure at least one person at some point in time is going to find that useful. So that's anti-theft mode. It's letting you know that this thing is now moving again, and so if it's not you moving it, you know that somebody's trying to take off with this thing. But again, under normal circumstances, because what they're assuming there is that the person doesn't know that the buzzer can be turned on and off, what you would do is you would power down the buzzer. And then you're good to go. So, pretty cool ideas. Again, you have to remember to turn it on, which is something you didn't have to do with the other VIFLY buzzers. And then turning it off, it'll make plenty of racket, so you'll remember to turn it off as well. Let's take a look at what else this comes with. Now, yes, it's a nice box. I don't really care about the box. But it comes with a piece of double-sided tape. And I really appreciate this. It comes with some very short, very concise instructions. So it explains in very short order how to use this, how it operates, what the different modes are, how it's intended to be used, and it doesn't get long-winded. Likewise, it's good English. To me, that's really important because you get a lot of things that are manufactured overseas, and, you know, when you go to read it, it's like, you know, ICANN has popsicle, and you spend more time or just as much time trying to decipher what this thing is saying. So, good stuff. The double-sided tape may or may not be useful depending on how you plan on using this. But again, for mounting this on the outside of a camera bird or just being able to buy 1 or 2 units and swap it on and off, in and out of your drones, you know, if you just want to tuck it under the Velcro battery strap when you're putting your battery on or something, then this is going to be really attractive to you. Again, the one shortcoming is that the old buzzers and even an internal or a fully onboard buzzer comes on when the flight controller comes on. With this does not do that. Now, I'm going to do a little bit of research to see if there's a way to get some power lines soldered to this, both for charging purposes and to have it automatically come on when the power is given to the unit, because that would be awesome. Then you only had to remember to turn it off and you don't have to use the weird, you know, plug your battery in for 5 seconds or 4 seconds, unplug it thing. So I definitely think there's a good market for this. I think this is a really nice option. It would be nice if some of the other VIFLY buzzers that maybe weren't meant to be used externally, so they still were wired to the flight controller, also had a visual beacon. Now, I keep using the term beacon. I want to go ahead and state that that beacon is not intended to be used for night operation. That is not going to be anything you can use with a waiver if you're Part 107 or for doing any night flying to visually identify yourself in the sky. It's nowhere near bright enough. It's just useful for finding the drone once you've narrowed down where it's at. So if you guys have any questions, go ahead and post them in the comments. We'll get that back to you. VIFLY, great job. You guys remember to fly smart, be safe, and happy crashing.
He lost video though, bro.
Yeah,
you don't.
He lost.
He's lost
no reference.
quads and
He had no reference. But guess what? Guess what? He put that buzzer in there.
I know, we would have known.
It would pinpoint.
That's an excellent.